Today we're going to be making a super cute Santa card using products from Pixi Dust Designs. I'm going to be featuring the Christmas Chimney add-on grandfather dies, add-on for the grandfather clock dies, and I'm going to use the Christmas pattern paper. I'm also going to show you how to get more from one sheet of pattern paper also today. So I've already die cut all my pieces out from cardstock, and I'm going to lay them onto a grip mat. I cut the frame out thinking I would use those, but I ended up not. So I just left them in my little box that I have off to the side. I am going to use the little scroll here, and I'll show you how I use that. But I'm going to add my a little brown ink. This is Gathered Twigs Distress ink. I'm adding that to the red parts of my card because I want to emphasize and add a little shadow to that. So brown is a great complement to the red. It darkens it really nicely without getting a little too much. And I can just use the one ink to do all my ink blending. So I've added that to the top of the chimney as well. Now I'm going to pull in my scroll piece, and I'm going to go around the edge of that first. This is the part for the grandfather clock that hangs off the side. But I'm going to use it on the card, and I'm going to show you how to use it a little bit differently to get a little bit more from your supplies. So we are just ink blending around that edge, just to add a little bit of texture to it and a little vintage feel. And then this piece is the bottom part, and I actually ended up cutting this die twice because the top part has the openings too, but I only wanted the bottom part to make it look like a scroll without the little holes in it to put on the grandfather clock, since I'm using it on my card. So I just cut that part twice. I added a little bit more shadow around, I added shadow around the whole thing, but I added a little bit more around the top, what I'm going to use for the top and what I'm going to use for the bottom, to make it stand out from the rest of the part of the scroll. So we're just adding that in using our little ink blending brush, and then I can take and assemble this together. So I'm going to take those two pieces and I'm going to just attach them at the bottom of the scroll, just like this. And it helps create that little scroll look. And then I'll do the same thing over the top. And this will be the back part, focal image of my card front. So I can set that to the side for a second, and then we can go ahead and put together our chimney. So I'm going to take and add in what is the top of the chimney. So I've just cut that from some sand colored cardstock, and I've added that. And I always get confused on this die. If you're like me, you think it cuts out the brick, but it doesn't. It cuts out the inside of the brick, the lines of the brick, the mortar, that's what it's called. So I've cut that from some shimmery white cardstock to add a little sparkle to the card. I also cut some of the other pieces from that white as well, like the snow that's going to go on top of the chimney, and to the parts of Santa that is white, all his little furry parts. Here is my little snow drift that is on top of my little chimney. We're just going to add that to it. This is a super easy card to do, and I do have another version to show you at the end using the other add-on set for Christmas for the grandfather clock. Using the Christmas tree, I made this card twice just to add a little, I can show you a different card version of it. Now I'm adding in Santa's little belt. I just got that from some black cardstock. So I love how the Pixi Dust Designs dies are etched. So once you cut the base piece out, everything, it shows you how to line everything up. It makes it super easy. Y'all know how I am. If it ain't easy, I ain't doing it. So I'm going to pull out his little boots. I'm going to make sure they're all turned over the right way. And then we're going to go ahead and add a little liquid glue onto his little area right there. And we will pop on his little boots. Ever since I saw this die set, this was immediately one of the things I thought of was to put him on a card, not just for the grandfather clock, because I thought this would make a super cute little Christmas card. And it was so fun to make. All right, I'm going to add his little belt buckle. I did cut that from some gold foil, so I will just add that onto his little belt. I think it adds just that little bit of extra touch that's going to help take this card over to the next level since it's so simple. Now I've got my 6x6 piece of pattern paper. I'm going to cut this down to 4 1/4 to begin with. So I'm cutting it 4 1/4, and I'm going to turn it around and cut it down to 5 1/2. The piece that we first cut off, we're going to save that for another card. That 1/2 inch strip we're going to use on this card for the inside of this card. I've moved that card down, or pattern paper down to 2 inches and cut that off. I'm going to take and reverse one side, and that's going to be my top part. And then I'm going to have the other side facing out. So we're going to use the cut the part now, the other pattern. So if you have a directional pattern, you got to be careful how you cut it. This one, it doesn't really matter for me, and I like to see in both plaids. I'm going to add that other piece, that little 1/2 inch strip by 4 1/4 inch strip on the inside of the card. And we have our decorative inside now. Super easy. Now I'm just going to cover that seam with a little foil. I chose a green color that would kind of match my greens on my paper. And I'll just cut off any excess, and I just trimmed off any of the excess paper hanging over off camera. Now I'm going to take and start putting my focal panel on. So we're going to go ahead and add our Santa to our chimney, since he's stuck in the little chimney. And this is super easy to do. Just add a little bead of glue on there and just kind of hold it in place. This is another thing I like to do for something like this, is I like to flip it over and add foam dimension behind it. That way it's more secure and everything doesn't fall apart before the glue dries. But I will just center a little foam dots across the seam where the two meet, and then I can pop my little Santa up after we add a few little smaller foam squares to his feet. That way everything's nice and lined up. If you haven't checked out the December release or January release for what month are we? November release with all the cute little Christmas stuff from Pixi Designs, I highly recommend it. There's lots of cute stuff in there today for the release. That's why we're using it now, because it was super cute. And I had to use some Santa one more time besides my sign for my grandfather clock decorative piece box. So I'm just adding him in on the little scroll, and then I will add this to my card front as my focal panel. And I like to add it over to the side, so it makes it super festive. I just adore this card. For my sentiment, I use the Ho 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 from the stamp set, from the die set, and I just cut it out from that same foil cardstock. And I had to figure out the placement of that. So I started by adding the center center part of the Ho 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 first, and I'm going to end up staggering them up so that it's all perfectly straight. So I'm just going to sit and fill those, get them where I want them, and then I will continue adding the other two parts of the sentiment. And I just alternated which one was a little higher, which one was a little lower, and kept going. So we'll just add the next part of our little sentiment here. This just makes me happy. It reminds me of a float I saw as a kid, I think, in a parade, where Santa was stuck in a chimney. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But that's what it reminded me of. So it was a little reminiscent of my childhood. So I'm just continuing adding my sentiment, getting those lined up. That's why I like to use the liquid glue, because it gives me a little bit more wiggle room to make sure everything's nice and lined up. I did switch to my Barely Art glue because this back of this paper was super slicky. So it let me not have to spend so much time getting everything lined up. So here's our last little O. So we're just going to continue adding in our sentiment, and then we will show you the other card. This is the Christmas tree version I did. Here's a closer look at this card. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Stay crafty. Bye, guys.